I'm Tim Ryan, and I'm running for President of the United States of America.
During the past week, we learned of two more congressmen who are joining the ever-growing field of 2020 presidential candidates, Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio and Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. And I mentioned earlier this week I had a chance to meet in person with most of the 2020 candidates during the NAN convention. One of them was the first to announce his bid back in 2017. He joins me now, former Democratic Congressman of Maryland, John Delaney. Congressman, you were very well received at the convention, and you talked about a commitment to Black America. And one of the things I think with so many of you coming forward and speaking to those issues, it shows the Democratic Party is not running away from black voters saying they have nowhere else to go, but really dealing with some of the issues. And despite the fact that there are some saying, let's get out of identity politics, I think Stacey Abrams said at the convention best, I don't want to lose my identity in order to engage in what I consider right politically for the country.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard that. That's a great way of framing it. But first of all, Reverend, I want to thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and the conference was terrific. And I did unfold my commitment to Black America at the conference. And I talked about the things I want to do in education in particular. As you know, we have a system in terms of how we fund education in this country that is fundamentally unfair, and it's racially unjust in many, many ways. And I've got some plans to change that, which include early childhood education, which I think every child should have as a right, including universal pre-K. So I talked about education. I talked about all the things we all want to do to fix our broken criminal justice system. I talked about my plans for universal health care. But what I really focused on, as you know, Reverend, is my plans to make sure we're investing in people and every community around this country. Because I've always believed nothing happens unless someone invests in the person and in the community. And as you know, I had some new ideas for how to really get both public and private capital flowing to these communities, so we create jobs in these communities and create opportunities to lift people up.
Now, one of the things we also raise, I raise with every candidate, is the issue of reparations at the NAN convention. And the answer, for the most part, was the same. Watch this. If that passes and you are president of the United States, would you sign that bill?
Yes, of course.
I support Congresswoman Jackson Lee's H.R. 40.
Yes, I would.
Yes.
When I am elected president, I will sign that bill.
Yes, I'm gonna pass it.
Of course I would sign it.
Yes, I would.
I firmly support Congresswoman Jackson Lee's bill.
And this is Congresswoman Jackson Lee talking about a commission to study reparations and how it could be done. So even with issues that not so long ago were not in the mainstream political discussion, the Democrats are not shying away from it this time, Congressman.
No, I think we're leaning into it because I think we know, specifically as it relates to the question of reparations, I think we all know this terribly long shadow of slavery, the most immoral thing this country has ever done, is still affecting people's lives. And I think we're all committed to make sure equality is not just a word we all throw around, in speeches and at conferences, but it's something that we live in this country. So, yeah, I think that was a great clip. I mean, everyone leaned into it, and I'm glad you asked the question of everyone.
Now, how in a field that is seemingly ever widening do you distinguish yourself? You've been the first to announce, you've been to Iowa a score of times or more.
Yep.
How do you, aside from just the issue of race, how do you distinguish yourself in this type of campaign with so many contenders?
I think with good ideas, obviously, this should be a battle of ideas. That's what a good primary is about. And I'm also very much a solutions-oriented person, because I think the Democratic primary voters should be asking the candidates, what do you stand for, and how are you going to make it happen? Because we can't wait any longer to do so many of these things. I used to say in my prior life as an entrepreneur before I ran for Congress, the cost of doing nothing is not nothing. And we've paid a huge price, right, in so many aspects of our society, for our failure to get things done. So I think this election is increasingly going to be about how are you going to make some of this stuff happen? So I think I distinguish myself there because I have real solutions that I believe I can get done as your president. So I've got a great operation on the ground in Iowa and New Hampshire. I think I've got the biggest operation in Iowa at this point. I've got 8 offices open all over the state. Same thing in New Hampshire. And I'm really engaging with voters, meeting them on their doorsteps and in their living rooms and talking to them about how I want to solve these problems, how I actually want to get this stuff done and really rethink our future together. I am a more centrist-oriented candidate, which I think is what we need as a country to not only win against Donald Trump, but also to govern successfully, to create the kind of coalitions that we need to get something like expanded early childhood education or to get universal pre-K as something that every young person in this country gets as a right. You know, to get that stuff done, you'd really need to build coalitions, and I really believe I know how to do that. I was ranked one of the most bipartisan members of the Congress, and I think I can go toe-to-toe with anyone on this notion that I can actually get this stuff done.
And in the debates, you hope that it is a debate around ideas and policies and not a lot of personal attacks?
There shouldn't be any personal attacks. Listen, I think every Democrat who's going to get on that debate stage is basically fighting for the same thing. We're fighting for a future that is more just, more prosperous, and more secure for all of our citizens. We're fighting for this notion that everyone deserves an opportunity, no matter what the conditions of your birth. We're fighting to build that better future and confront some of the big challenges we face, whether it be climate change or income inequality or the fact that there's tremendous concentration of opportunities. So I think it should be respectful. I think we should lay out how we're going to make these things happen. And I think the Democratic primary voter is going to get behind the person who they think will be the best leader. And how I'm defining the best leader is someone who can actually bring this country together. Because as you know, Reverend, because you talk about this so eloquently, we're so terribly divided right now. And we got to restore this notion of common purpose, not only so that we feel better about ourselves, but so that we can get real things done that matter to the American people.
I'm going to hold it there. Thank you very much, John Delaney.
Thank you, Reverend.
Up next, my final thoughts. Stay with.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.